Welcome to the Flame Tree Myth and Fiction podcast.
Hi everyone, it's Olivia here. Excuse the slightly croaky voice, I've got a bit of a summer cold. But I just wanted to introduce today's special episode, where I am joined by two wonderful guests, Kane and Marie O'Regan. They are authors and editors, and their recent work includes the very first anthology in our Beyond and Within series, Folk Horror Short Stories. But I will let them introduce themselves in their own words. I just wanted to make a quick disclaimer that this conversation was recorded at the London Book Fair in March, if you're wondering what all that background buzz is all about. But yeah, I thought if we just start with you introducing yourselves. Just, hi, I'm Marie, author, editor. Yeah.
I'm Marie O'Regan, a writer and editor. I live in Chesterfield. I'm from London. Best known, I suppose, for the anthologies I edit with Paul. And I write horror and psychological horror, crime.
I'm Paul Kane, probably best known for my Hooded Man books, which are post-apocalyptic Robin Hoods, and my association with the Hellraiser mythology. I've written a lot re-edited, co-edited Hellbound Hearts together.
We did, yeah. First Hellraiser anthology.
Back in 2009, I think it was, yeah. And just, editing books as well. We've been doing that for together we've been doing it about 20 odd years now, haven't we?
We have.
So, yeah.
So you were just talking about how you ended up working together. Do you want to tell that story?
We met when Paul emailed me asking for a short story for the guest writer slot on his website. And we basically kept in touch and met at FantasyCon that year and were friends and started working together. And then I was on the BFS committee, British Fantasy Society committee, and then by 2004 I was chair and brought Paul on as special publications editor, and we were working together on projects there. And then 2005 I moved up to Chesterfield because I wanted to move out of London. We were working together so much at that point anyway, it made sense. And been there ever since, really.
We just it made things easier for working together, and then we got together as well, didn't we?
We did a few months after that, we both write separately, but we edit. I've edited some stuff separately. I did Mammoth Book of Ghost Stories by Women and Phantoms, which is again ghost stories. You're sensing a theme with me. You've done stuff on your own.
Yeah, I did.
Editing wise,
Beyond Rue Morgue, which was a book of Poe stories, Graham Poe, his Detective Dupin, those kind of stories. Co-edited that with Charles Prepelec. I've not done much on my own. I tend to kind
editing wise, we tend to co-edit mostly, don't we?
Like a co-editor to kind of like. I think it just kind of like helps to halve the workload, but also check other people's. You check each other's work and stuff. And, and
we get a wider range because sometimes our tastes might be slightly different, so we'll discuss favourites and things and which one we want to include and come up with a list that we're both happy with.
Yeah, where to put things in the actual book and what order to put them in, and discuss things, and we come up with ideas when we're sort of in a pub usually and things like that.
Let's go for lunch, then we come out with a list of things we want to do. Yeah.
But we just found we work really well together, as well as kind of being partners. We work together, which I know a lot of people wouldn't.
we get on, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
We work. Our methods of working go well together as well.
Yeah, we were best friends first before we got married. So we do work very well together. We're just kind of
we've run conventions together, edited anthologies together.
Yeah, it just works, doesn't it? Don't tend to question it because it
just
easy. Works.
Yeah. Some of the more recent ones. For Flame Tree, we did the folk horror, Beyond and Within Folk Horror Short Stories, which was fun.
That was something that we wanted to do for a long time. We're both kind of fans of folk horror. Back to growing up in the 70s and 80s and things, and seeing those things on those public information films, was it Spirit of Dark Water and things like that?
You remember those? I don't remember them.
Yeah, where they kind of the hooded figure of death was by the lake and things, and obviously you got all the things like Blood on Satan's Claw and Wicker Man in the 70s.
My memory is more of those, Witchfinder General, things like that. Yeah.
And also being fans of things like M.R. James, we're both fans of stuff like that. And in the fiction.
I actually got into reading horror at the age of 9 with an anthology that was in the school library called Thin Air of classics, really. It was like Dickens was in it, M.R. James, Algernon Blackwood, and I took it out every week for 2 years until they gave it to me.
Yeah.
But that's what set me off on that path, really.
A lot of those writers are kind of known for like ghost story stuff, and they're like, oh, that's M.R. James is a ghost, which he is, fantastic ghost story writer, but also has like an element of folk horror to it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, you know, a lot of people don't associate him with folk horror, but there's a lot of kind of
there, definitely.
You know, the witchcraft stuff, and Ash Tree, obviously, with the witch in there, and
one that freaks me out. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's another thing. The ghost stories for Christmas.
Yes.
Watching those as you're kind of growing up. So we'd wanted to do a folk horror thing for a long time, and you know, we both kind of skirt around sort of folk horror-y stuff with our fiction as well, and you know, I've written a few things that are connected with that. The Family Lie was folk horror, and you know, Sacrifice, which is based on something of mine, the film. And you've done kind of some of your stories are very sort of folk horror, I think.
Kind of in terms of treatment, yes, but more urban tropes, I think, because I grew up in London and you grew up in the countryside,
Yeah.
so you know, I'm an Islington girl. So.
Well, which is what folk horror is. It's all
Yeah.
kind of like the urban and the, you know,
So
the
mine was
contrast.
like subways and things like that.
Which is, we're doing some stories now, aren't we, to do with that. Somebody asked us to do a story which is kind of urban-y, folk horror-y, and it's sort of, we're sort of thinking about doing something like that now, aren't we, at the moment? So we just we've always wanted to do a folk horror. But
It was fun. It was fun to work on.
yeah, it was fun. Yeah.
You've got a good range of stories, I think.
How do you go about curating the list of authors and the stories? Do you have those connections already?
We kind of have a look around at who's doing that kind of thing, and obviously, I mean, if they're not familiar to us anyway, then we look at what we can read of theirs that's online to get a taste for how they write. We just bandy names about, really, until we're both happy with what looks like enough authors to fill the anthology, and then we just start contacting. I mean, for the Flame Tree ones, as you know, we have 4 blind submissions, so we ask 12 authors or so, and then we get a short list of, I think it was about 30 stories we saw.
I think it was something like 120,000
Yeah.
words, I think, to read through, and just kind
We
of
got the short list.
short list. Short in inverted commas.
And the 4 editors of Flame Tree had to read all the others, so they were snowed under. But
Yeah.
I mean, we're doing a Witchcraft one now, so we're just starting to get stories in for that.
Yeah.
But again, for the open submission part, the editors at Flame Tree will do the heavy lifting on the open submissions, and then we look at the short list.
That's the short list onto as well.
And then if we can't find 4 in there that we feel fit in with the rest of the stories in there, then we just ask to see more of the short list until we've come up with an anthology we think hangs together well and works well.
Which fits the kind of like word length of the whole thing, because you've got to think about how long it is,
Yeah.
which I think it's about 80,000 words.
Yeah,
something like
80-ish.
that. 80-ish. So you've got to kind of keep it to, these stories tend to try and keep to 4 to 5, don't we?
Between 4,000 and 5,000, yeah.
I mean, some anthologies have been like 7. Some people might do as 10,000 words for certain anthologies, but this is a very kind of strict. You've got to.
I mean, you've got more leeway. If someone hands in one that's shorter, or we get a few that are shorter, then you've got a bit more leeway if someone sends in a longer one. But we do have to keep an eye
You've got
on
to kind
length.
of let them know beforehand that it's got to be, when you're approaching people, it's only going to be like 5,000. You know, you can't kind of go off on a tangent and do like 10,000 words, because that's 2 people's.
And we
slots,
also ask authors to give us a brief note of their idea when they have it, just so that we can try and make sure no 2 people are coming in and I'm going to do this, and they've both got the same ideas. So try and make sure everything's as we've got as wide a range of stories as we can.
So then when the stories come in, I'll sort of look at them and format them into a format that we're going to put the whole manuscript in to hand it in, and I'll do an edit of it. Marie will then do an edit of it. You're very good at contracts and that side of it, so you've already done a lot of work on like the contract side of things, which I'm not great at. But then we sort of
we both edit. We
yeah.
both have our edits, and if we disagree on any of them, we discuss it and work the way forward. And then we go back to that, and then it's a back and forward with the author.
Backwards and forwards, and then it comes down to the order of things and how, which ones you've got to take into consideration. Things like first person points of view, things like that. Which
making sure everything's varied, so you don't have like 3 first person narratives and then a third person and then more first person. So.
And it's a very, like, even when you've got it into where you think is like the order that you're going to do it. As you're going through the final set of stories, you might see something like somebody's called their main character Charles, or I don't know, Harry or something like that, and then
so
the next story,
one, yeah.
it's like, and I said to Harry,
there's a lot of things
no.
you've got to try and make sure that there are as few points of similarity between the stories that are adjacent to each other as possible, while making sure they flow well.
You can roughly do that with subject matter, but also when you're going through it, you tend to get tripped up with things that I didn't realise it, because sometimes it's so long between looking at that story when it's come in and putting it in the final one that you forget where, certain like nuances, and you don't want those two together, so you have to kind of switch them around, and then
that affects that one.
And then you're looking at the list of table of contents, and it's there's something at night, there's something, so you don't want too many with the all together in a clump.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things to try and balance.
Yeah, there's a lot of things to take into people. I don't think people realise when you're putting together an anthology how much work there is involved, and even from like signing off on something on doing it could be a couple of years before. Just the whole process could take a
from
couple
pitch
of
to actually
years.
seeing to delivering the book could easily be a couple of years.
So it's a lot of work.
Oh, it's very interesting. I've got to go through it like that.
No, that's it.
So should we go on to the Desert Island books? If you just want to start saying about your inspiration books that you found inspired you.
Okay.
I don't know what it is that's made you think which ones you would want to take to the desert island, but...
I mean, 5 books I would like to take on a desert island. I mean, it's not unknown that I like a ghost story, is it really? I write a lot of them, and I've edited 2 anthologies of them, but for a desert island I think I would take the anthology that started with reading horror, Thin Air, which is a 1960s anthology. It was an old hardback that was tucked in the corner of the school library, which I still have. And it's a mix of the classics, like the yellow wallpaper, the ash tree, I've forgotten the name of it, a werewolf story, I think it's Aikman, I can't remember the name of it. But there's so many in that I love. I would also take Bag of Bones, which I think is... I was asked the question once, what's your comfort read? And it was Bag of Bones by Stephen King. I am a huge Stephen King fan. Ever since the age of 13, I've been reading everything. Bag of Bones for me, it's a really good ghost story. The relationship stuff in it is very good. It's a man mourning his wife, for those who don't know it, who goes to their cabin by the lake, and then events start to occur, and you find out what it's haunted by and why, and how that reverberates into now. And I love it. Nosferatu by Joe Hill, which is, it's not a ghost story as such, but it's definitely supernatural, and I just love his voice. It's just a very, very good, creepy, outwardly. It's the one book recently, or in the last 10 years, that I've read and I've had to put down at the prologue. He's like, nope, later. And I do love that.
2 more.
That's 3. 2 more. Dark Matter by Michelle Paver, which is a 1920s set Arctic ghost story. So the atmosphere in that is amazing. My other love is crime fiction, and it's a toss-up. It's one or other. I would either take And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie, or I would take The Woman in the Window by A.J. Finn. I love both of those. It's there's a claustrophobia to both of them, which I really enjoy. So slight cheat, because that's 6, but that's me.
Hitchcock, isn't it?
It's very Hitchcockian, yeah.
I mean, my first one, I mentioned Hellraiser, so it's got to be The Hellbound Heart by Clive Barker, the first one, which is a novella technically. It's not, wouldn't take me long to read that, but I'd reread that over and over again, because I have done since.
And you have.
Since the 80s, I have, yeah. I love that book. Obviously, I've worked a lot to do with Hellraiser and the Hellraiser mythology. So, Dune, Frank Herbert, which is obviously getting like a lot of attention at the moment because of the films, and you don't realise until you look back how much of an influence that's had, like on my work anyway, on and stuff like that. The Rats, James Herbert from the 70s, which was technically it's one of the first horror books that I ever read. when I was sort of in the schoolyard and sort of reading horror books when I was growing up. Brother in the Land, which is a post-apocalyptic. They call it a YA now, by Robert Swindells, but that category didn't exist when it was. But we actually read it at school. It was one of the English class, books that we were reading. But that post-apocalyptic sort of thing has stayed with me into doing like the Hood and Man books and doing like post-apocalyptic work myself. And one of my favourite crime writers is Mark Billingham. You're talking about crime writers, is Mark Billingham. And obviously his Thorn series is fantastic, but Rush of Blood, which is like a standalone, and it's basically these couples meet on holiday, and then they have these dinner parties when they get back home, and there's a missing person on the island. It's all kind of, somebody's been murdered there, and it's just very. I read that in one sitting and just kind of like page turner. So yeah, I could read that over and over again. I mean, Mark's work is brilliant. I mean, there's so many. I said to you, narrowing it down to 3. It wasn't originally 3, wasn't it? You said, and then like narrowing it down to 5 even is just.
I mean, one of my favourite crime series is the Charlie Parker series by John Connolly. But how do I pick one?
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask one last thing. Obviously, you're very interested in folk horror and ghost stories. What is it about those stories that attract you? I mean, I know that you read that horror anthology.
Folk horror, I think it speaks to people's unease with nature, really, because in the modern age, I think people who live in towns and cities don't really connect with nature in the way that people would have done. So now it's like the old ways and things, and it's like it's slightly alien. So you put someone from a town into a rural setting that still observes like old traditions, and they're terrified. I mean, I think with Shirley Jackson's The Lottery, isn't it, for an example of that?
It's always more popular when there's times of uncertainty, and I think last 5 or 6 years we've had a lot of uncertainty. So it's like people are turning back to like looking at like folk horror is popular again. So I think that's sort of in terms of folk horror stuff. You said ghost stories as well, or just ghost?
Yeah. Ghost stories are just something that you were mentioning as you were speaking.
I love ghost stories. I think because a large part of a ghost story is a mystery. Because you've got the events of the haunting going on, but you've also got who is the ghost, how did they die, and why are they still haunting? So it kind of gels that supernatural and crime as well. I mean.
And also what happens after you die. People like to think there's something that happens that after you die, and that you could like linger around and be a ghost, or still talk to loved ones and things. I think that's kind of.
I mean, the Victorians were obsessed with that, weren't they?
Yeah.
But it's there's what comes after, and also there's a large element of a mystery to a ghost story. So I like the atmosphere of them. And I also like the mystery of what's going on underneath.
Similar tropes to a crime story, really.
Pretty
it's
much,
like try working the clues and why did this happen, what happened.
There's a film. It's one of my favourite films. I've actually written about it in Cinema Macabre.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
The Changeling, George C. Scott, which is a man who loses his wife and daughter at the beginning. And he goes off and rents this mansion. He's a composer. He rents this mansion so he can be on his own and get back to composing and find his peace. Except, of course, it's haunted. So he's trying to find out who's haunting the mansion, what happened to them, why it seems to have been covered up, and how it affects what's going on around him now. And it's just, there's a lot of layers. Plus, it's a good scare.
It's a great film.
People like to be scared of him. It's a safe scare, isn't it?
It's okay.
I just keep it going. I really, really enjoyed this conversation and learning all about the process of being an anthology editor. There are things that I wouldn't have even thought about until they said it, and then it's like, well, yeah, of course someone has to think about those things. So yeah, really interesting. We also got some great recommendations from Paul and Marie, so we've listed them all in the episode description. And I just want to say a huge thank you to Paul and Marie. I hope we can talk again with them because they have 2 new anthologies coming out. The first is Witchcraft Short Stories, which is, pretty clear on what it's going to be about, witchcraft. magic, witchy short stories by both new and sort of established writers. That's coming out in early 2026. And then we have just closed the submissions for their later anthology called Best Served Cold, which is more crime inflected. So yeah, that's really exciting. That will be towards the later end of the year. So we are very, very excited, and yeah, hopefully can talk more again with Paul and Marie next time. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. We'll see you next week. Bye.